Ikhide Ikheloa is a respected literary critic and blogger who writes non-stop on various online media. He has been published severally in books, journals, and online magazines. He was a columnist with Next newspapers and the Daily Times of Nigeria, where he held forth and offered unsolicited opinions on any and everything to do with literature and the world. Ikhide currently resides in the USA, and he refuses to write a book because he insists that the book is dying a long, slow death. He had something to say about that in his typically candid manner in the interview I had with him. Please stay tuned. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You've been a critic, literary critic for many years. Your reviews are well respected, well read. Now, what led you on that path? What led you to become a critic of literature?
Well, I've always been very opinionated, and I've always been a noisy reader. And I think that the internet has given me the opportunity to express what used to be on the margins of my books openly. So when I was in Nigeria, we would sit around on cartons of beer and express our views about books. And that has not changed. I do think that as intellectuals and as thinkers and as writers and as readers, we belong in a particular class, and we have a moral responsibility to police ourselves. If you believe in the politics, if you understand the politics of literature, you are looking at the politics of narrative, how narrative can distort or make accurate the history of a people. And I always thought that we have a responsibility to ensure that there is truth in the narrative. There is no true fiction. There are lies. And so I was by myself, and I figured these are beautiful people writing good things, but some of these things we have to worry about. And I started out that way. It has not made me very popular. It's probably made me a little bit notorious. But it's not personal. I really admire these people. I think our writers are doing an awesome job, especially on the internet. But I do think that much of Black Africa is viewed through the prism of books. And when you view Africa through the prism of books, you don't see the sum of our experience. And that was my point. I also thought that we had to move away from literary criticism to reviews. We had to go to the streets to say, I like your book, I hate your book, and this is why I like your book, this is why I don't like your book. And for some reason, that seems to have caught on quite a bit. I'm not the only one doing it now. Quite a few young folks beginning to get themselves engaged, but primarily I look at it from the politics of our stories.
You've said you won't publish your own book, and a lot of people seem to think that you have a problem with the printed book. What is it about the printed book? What's your take on the printed book?
I revere books. I was raised in books. I traveled the world in books. I was on Ajapako. I couldn't travel to London like you guys on summer vacation, so I went to summer vacation in my books. I do think that when I say that the book is dying, people just think I am saying the book is dead. It's a metaphor for saying you're a writer, you're a thinker. When people are not reading books as much as they are reading. So there is a very important distinction there. When a young lady is on an Okada and they are reading their smartphone, they are reading. But you are writing these books. She will never, ever read these books, but she will read what's in her palms. And I have said to folks, why don't we find a way of porting our ideas to those things? On Facebook alone, there are at least 12 million Nigerians reading every day, reading trash like LOL, SMH. Why can't we, move all of these beautiful things to, and that was what I said. And so people think, and of course, change is hard for people. People say, well, I like the feel of books. I like to do this, I like to do that. Well, that's nice. There are still some people who still use slide rules to this day. I don't know if you're old enough to know what a slide rule is, and it works for them. But for the vast majority of human beings, the slide rule does not exist. So beyond that, as a reader, I like the fact that I can take a book online. There are all of this can be online as ebooks, cut and paste sections that I like, do random access searches and so on and so forth. And if I want to search, if I take Things Fall Apart, which is online by the way, and I want to search for everything that Unoka ever said, I do a search on Unoka, and it all comes up. I cut and paste them. I do notes on their side. I am still old school, by the way. Occasionally I read stuff like this, but it's becoming tough for me because when I make notes, then I have to transcribe them and so on and so forth. I think the other thing I did share with you is I am the chief of staff to the 17th largest school system in the United States, the Montgomery County Public Schools, Maryland. I'm the chief of staff to an elected board. We've got 150,000 children, $2.2 billion budget, 20,000 employees. Those kids, we are converting their backpacks of books. The backpacks we are converting them to digital backpacks so that my son can just walk into a school empty-handed with a smartphone and have the backpack everywhere they go. The curriculum is already digitized, so you can do any of these things. So that's where the world is going. But for me, though, the really important thing comes back again to the whole notion of the politics of literature. There is a single story that's being perpetuated by these books. It is one of poverty, of hunger, of constipated generals, of rapes, of beatings, and so on and so forth, that the West likes. So I suspect there are some people who basically write their stories to meet a certain narrative. You will have to look at what's online, add it to the books to get a full sense of what Africa is like. And that's been my campaign, that we cannot look at Africa through the eyes of those that have been anointed by the West. We must look at Africa through we must force the world to look at Africa through our own voices. So I have focused on youngsters, I have focused on young writers who don't have access to all these big publishers, who are just as creative and as hardworking as these few guys who have been lucky to get the publishing industry in the West to publish them. And I think to a great degree we've been successful. I always tell people that the internet is the preferred publisher of choice for the African writer. When you are talking about Egusi, about Gregory, and so on and so forth, you don't have to italicize it. You just yourself. But if you go to the West and you say Gregory, they will say, well, what is that? And you explain it to them. They say, put a footnote on it. But they never, ever tell you to put a footnote on sauerkraut. You understand? They assume that it is their word. You have to know what sauerkraut means. And I've said to folks, this is our word also, and we have to define it. We don't have to be ashamed of we don't have to be ashamed of who we are and what we do.
Now, when you look down at the literary space in Nigeria, what do you see? What do you think needs to be changed, to be corrected? Any criticisms?
I don't like to see it in terms of criticism. I have to admit that I'm biased towards contemporary Nigerian writing. I think I like to see it in terms of a renaissance. These folks are doing amazing work under difficult circumstances. It is incredibly difficult to think and write under some of the conditions that these young people work. So I don't want to discourage people by saying, there's something wrong with what they're doing. I see some very, very robust writing. I see some original thinking in books, on the internet, and so on and so forth. There is some sense, though, that some of us are writing to the test of prizes. There's been talk about the Kane Prize, which I admire, but there's some sense also that people horribly staple things together when it is time for the NLNG prize. That is, if it is time to do the poetry prize, we all become poets. If it's time to do prose, suddenly we all become prose writers. But those are problems that are unique to writers anywhere in the world. I think that because we lack a local publishing house, we have had to tailor our works to suit an imagined audience that exists in the West, a paying audience that exists in the West. And it's come at a great cost. Chinua Achebe says, until the lion tells the story of the hunt will always be glorified by the hunter. The West has been the hunter, you see, because they say this is how you must tell it if you want to be published. And so those are the kinds of challenges that I see. I think also that we have to find a way of making sure that people who do hard work like this get paid for their work. And that there is no market for that yet. There is a reading public, there's a reading audience, but we don't have a paying audience necessarily, unless you are a Chimamanda Adichie, a Tejuko, a Wole Soyinka, and so on and so forth. But for every one of those, we've got, as you know, hundreds of writers.
You've spoken about your admiration for contemporary Nigerian writers. So I'm going to ask you, who are your favorites amongst them?
I'm going to get in real trouble here. I like every one of them pretty much. I obsess about our stories. But I think of young people like Nathan John. Have you ever heard the name? Yeah. I think of young people like Richard Ali, Abubakar Ibrahim, Okamaka, Olisakwe. I think about Paul Osibu. Let's see. Then, of course, we've got Chimamanda Adichie, you've got Tejuko, and so on and so forth. I think about Egosa Emaswen. These are really brave warriors, just writing awesome stuff under terrible conditions. I understand that there are some writers who are just writing whole books using unused Blackberries. Who does that? I mean, that's got to be crazy, So every one of them, I just see them. I'm like, come here, you abused little fool. Why are you doing this? Go get a job, So I don't know if you're on Facebook. On Facebook, I just stalk them. I follow them everywhere because they are doing stuff. But nobody talks about them because they don't have, the kind of stature that the established writers do. And no, I'm not begrudging them. They've worked hard for it. But we must also go to all these people, because when you read their works, they actually have sex in their books. Who does that? They make love. They are angry. They are self-absorbed. They are everything that is the sum of your experience. And so I think they complement the works of the traditional writers like Adichie. Chika Onigwe is another person that I just think is doing awesome work, not only with books but digitally. Shuma Wokolo is a great leader digitally. Alpha McKay, I don't know if you've ever heard the name. Alpha McKay is just another influential person. I would not be here today without Molara Wood. I don't know if you know Molara Wood. Yes, she's just an amazing leader in books and digitally. So I hope that one day somebody will, get off their butt and write the history of contemporary Nigerian literature. All of these people that I've talked about, and their names will be on there. It's just a whole list of people that I read.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Both interviews were courtesy of the Ikhide Arts and Book Festival. I hope you enjoy them. Don't forget you can join us on any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one good book can change your life. Bye-bye.